I think that's one thing that I have really good. I have no filter, so whatever comes to my brain, it just comes out of my mouth.
Right.
Pause.
Right.
But yeah, anything that comes out of my brain, it just comes out. So great example, right? We were sitting in this kitchen, and our friend was talking about like, oh, something with his dad, and I was like, haha, I didn't have a dad.
Right.
And I remember you just started breaking down laughing.
Yeah, that was hilarious.
Because it's so out of pocket, but that's what works, and that's another thing too. Like, I think that's part of my character also, because people build off their trauma, right? Like for me, I didn't have a dad.
Right.
And people look at it, oh, so sad. When I see people like, oh, I didn't have a dad, I'm like, motherfucking, I didn't have a dad, LeBron James didn't have a dad, but we became great.
Right.
So you have to let that trauma fuel you, right? So, I don't know, I think people, one, just to segue, you have to be a little bit out of pocket in order to captivate someone.
Right.
But also, two, those negative things, you can use that to fuel you. Because I know for me, like, just to segue, growing up without a dad made me a monster, made me a beast. So what do you feel like fuels you? Do you have a lot of trauma in your life? What fuels you?
Childhood trauma. There's two moments in my life, two pivotal moments that I think helped me pivot in the way that I navigate. The first one, well, actually I should say second, because the first one was ultimately my dad getting sick. Because I've had moments where like I was in a choir when I was younger, and then my mom said she was gonna attend. My dad, he already told me he couldn't come because he had to go to work. My mom actually called out of work that day. She said she would be there. She ended up not attending, and I remember I was the last one who was on the stage. So it was like a movie. Like I could feel the sad violin, despite the fact that it was happening in real time. I'm watching everybody because the parents had to come and collect the children. So it's like, oh wow, Timmy's dad is here. He's gonna take him home. Oh, Monica's mom is here. She's gonna take her. So I'm just standing there and say I'm the last one, and the teacher's like, well, where's your mom? I'm like, oh well. That's a good question. So I'm standing on stage as, oh boy, she's not here. So I had moments in my childhood where that happened, but the most pivotal one was I was entering 8th grade. It was September 4th, 2007. My father was heading to the hospital. He went to go check himself into the hospital, or perhaps go to the emergency room, but I think he was gonna check himself in because we had went to Niagara Falls a couple of weeks prior, and he had been feeling under the weather. Till this day, I have no clue what the diagnosis is. I think perhaps it was a cancer or something of that nature, but still, I have no clue. I don't know why my family's never told me. I've been searching for the paper, the medical reports, can't find them. But he checked himself into the hospital. He was in the hospital for 6 weeks. And when he was in the hospital, he had lost, I believe, between 60 or 70 pounds. So I looked at him damn near become like skull and bones, pretty much. And it was incredibly traumatic at the moment because at the time, I've always had a 2-parent household, but my dad ruled the house like with an iron fist. So it was like, there's no relationship. I go to work, I provide for the family. My mom went to work too, but he was still like the head of the household. So since that was the case, it's like, well, you're here, but I don't really know you like that. And I never looked at it like, oh man, I don't know my dad or anything like that. I just thought, hey, that's the regular family dynamic. But when I saw him in the hospital bed, and there was a moment in which he did fall into a coma, but we were myself and my brother were on our way to on our way to his room. We were going up the stairs. I remember seeing my mom running outside of the room, calling for help and all that other stuff. I remember me and my brother looking at each other, what the hell's going on over there? So they held us and shielded us away from the room. So it was like, that's when reality came in. Oh wow, my dad could die. And I had no relationship or anything of that nature. So that was one of the traumatic experiences, because I'm there like, man, I have no real relationship with this dude or anything. It's like, oh, that's just my dad. So what I did was I ended up fueling that towards being able to captivate, or I should say cultivate, a relationship with him. Then over the course of many different years, it was my sophomore year of high school. I was 16 years old. I had just finished sophomore year. It was going into the summer. It was like 2 weeks after my birthday. I remember sitting on my front yard with my dad, telling him, hey, you know, I'm gonna make it to the NFL. I'm gonna make all this money. You're not gonna have to work no more. I'm gonna do all this other stuff. Failed at everything. Never happened out. And then the second turning point moment for me was 2 years later, November 20th, 2011, my last high school game, right? And I was not this massive, amazing athlete. I was so run-of-the-mill average, whatever the case is, right? And it was our last game. We're in the playoffs, the semifinals for the right to go to the championship. And for me, this was everything, because I had lost at everything in life, right? I had never won, never got to like the finish line or whatever. I was never number one. I never had that opportunity to be like, I'm number one, right? And I think in sports, it's very unique from every other career path or extracurricular activity, whatever the case is. Because in sports, you have a champagne popping moment where you can say we're champions. There are certain, fields where you can do that, but primarily sports is like the number one in that area. So you play to win the game, as Herman Edwards would say, right? And it mattered so much to me. I was a dude who was in the basement training like 3 hours after I get home from school. I used to do 300 push-ups a day for 6 straight years.
Crazy.
Just going crazy. And I'm just envisioning this moment. I'm like, man, we're one game away from play. And everybody has the daydreams of hitting the game-winning shot, catching the game-winning touchdown. And the week prior, we were up by 1, and it looked like everything was unfolding in the first, I guess, wild card, if you will, game in the postseason. We were able to put them away and win the game. Yeah. And then in this game, we're trailing by 1 point. We're down 19-0. We come all the way back. Now it's 27-26. We kick an onside kick. We get the ball back. Our offense is on the field. And I'm just there like, yo, this is the moment. Like, we're going to get the game-winning touchdown. We're going to go into the end zone. And I had never in my life been optimistic. This was the first time in my life I had been optimistic. So I'm like, I can envision going to the championship game where it's like a minute, 30 seconds remaining. Yeah. We're a few plays away. We throw an interception, we lose. In that moment on the field, everything stopped, everything changed. But there was a moment in the game, and this was the turning point that truly shaped my entire life, right? Where it was a 3rd down and long. I'm playing outside linebacker. I can envision, I'm getting goosebumps right now. And I can envision it. It's 3rd and long. And I talked to my defensive end and I asked him, I said, hey, should I blitz here? Because I know what play they're going to run. They're going to run a wheel route running towards the left-handed side because they ran it earlier 2 quarters before. And I was a student of the game, so I knew it. And he said, I don't think you should, just in case they do anything coming backwards. I said, all right. The whole time I'm thinking to myself, just go, just go, just go. Because when you think of the best players who have ever played, you think of the
Kobe,
best people, right? They've always had that dog. Moreover, they had that just fucking go. You don't need no permission. You may go make a play. Yeah. And I didn't do it. I stayed and I dropped back into coverage and I'm counting in my head. 1, 2, 3. It got to 7 seconds. I could have made it there. Yeah. And all the dude did was throw the ball out of bounds. I could have made it there. And then that sat with me. It haunted me. After we lost the game, that's the only thing I could think about. Still, till this day, that's what fuels me. Because I'm like, I can never not bet on myself. Because in that moment, that was one of the opportunities that I actually was cognizant of, having the chance to bet on myself. Yeah. Because even if we had won, if we had lost, or I should say if the play was, if I had sacked the quarterback or they had, went back the other way and found a completion or something, then it's on me and I know it's on me. Versus living in that what if realm.